Have you ever wondered which generation has had the best lifestyle, fashion, and culture? Boomers, the slang, fashion, and pop culture of the silent generation and the baby boomers reflect a notable and diversified evolution throughout the 20th century, marked by significant changes in language, clothing, and preferred entertainments by these cohorts. In the early decades, especially in the 1920s, the slang used by the youth could be considered somewhat cheesy or simplistic by today's standards, with expressions and idioms that sought to differentiate from the formality of previous generations. However, this period also witnessed a creative explosion, particularly during the 1940s and 1950s, where slang was enriched with more inventive and expressive phrases, reflecting a world in constant change and an increasingly influential and autonomous youth culture. Fashion and haircuts, for their part, followed a similar transformation trajectory. The 1920s were characterized by relatively generic and conservative styles, which obeyed the norms and social expectations of the time. However, as the century progressed, especially during the 1950s and 1960s, fashion adopted a more experimental and bold character. More varied and sometimes questionable trends were seen, ranging from rockabilly to mod and hippie, reflecting the youth's desire to experiment and express their individuality through clothing and hairstyle. In the realm of pop culture and entertainment products, the differences between the decades are equally marked. During the 1920s and 1940s, entertainment options were relatively limited, with jazz and short films dominating the cultural scene. These formats, although popular, offered a more restricted spectrum of expression and enjoyment compared to what was to come. The 1950s and 1960s, in contrast, represented a golden age for pop culture, with the emergence of icons like Elvis Presley and the Beatles, who not only revolutionized music but also the way generations viewed themselves and their place in the world. Moreover, innovations like bubble wrap, along with the development of television and other media, opened new avenues for entertainment and daily life, marking the beginning of an era of mass cultural consumption and enjoyment. These transformations in slang, fashion, and pop culture not only reflect the social and technological changes of their respective times, but also speak to a constant search for identity and belonging by the silent generation and the baby boomers. Through their language, their clothing, and their cultural idols, these generations left an indelible mark on the social fabric, influencing the trends and norms that would come in the following decades. Generation X, spanning the 1980s, is a fascinating period characterized by a rich diversity in lifestyles, fashion, and cultural expression. This generation, situated between the baby boomers and millennials, has left an indelible mark on cultural and social history, marked by a series of unique trends and phenomena, hairstyles and fashion. During this decade, fashion and hairstyles reflected a bold spirit of experimentation and a desire for individual expression. Styles were an eclectic mix of hits and misses, characterized by a notable trend towards very curly hair, highlighting perms and voluminous hairstyles that dominated among both men and women. Fashion was not far behind, with a tendency towards vibrant colors, bold patterns, and unique silhouettes. Style icons of the era, from musicians to actors, heavily influenced fashion, wearing everything from leather jackets to the iconic acid-wash jeans. Slang. The slang of Generation X receives a mixed assessment, incorporating phrases and expressions that have become emblematic of the era. Phrases like "eat my shorts," popularized by pop culture characters, capture the rebellious and sometimes irreverent spirit of the generation. Although these expressions may seem curious to later generations, at the time they served as important markers of group identity and belonging, and are generally considered more witty and resonant than the slang of previous decades. Pop culture and products. The pop culture of the 1980s is widely celebrated for its innovation and lasting impact. References to iconic songs, hit movies, and the omnipresence of figures like Michael Jackson signal a golden age of entertainment and art. Pop and rock music, along with cinematic blockbusters, not only defined the era's entertainment, but also influenced global trends. As for products, although some, like the pet rock, are often criticized for their apparent lack of utility, the decade also marked the beginning of the video game era. With the popularization of gaming consoles and arcades, this period is recognized as a crucial turning point in the development of entertainment technology and gamer culture, laying the groundwork for future innovations in the field. The millennial era, extending from the 1990s to the early 2000s, was marked by distinctive fashion and hairstyle trends that, despite initial criticism, have experienced a resurgence in popularity fueled by nostalgia. This period was characterized by a penchant for bold hairdos and the embrace of baggy pants, symbolizing a time of experimentation and defiance. It heralded a more inclusive and diverse approach to fashion. The era's slang, infused with sarcasm and humor, together with its pop culture, highlighted by the success of various TV shows and the ascendance of rap music, mirrored the era's dynamic cultural expression. Iconic products like Pokémon and classic toys are not just fondly recalled, but are also recognized for their cultural and economic significance. This era is distinguished by its innovation, personal expression, and its profound influence on the collective identity of a generation whose impact remains influential to this day. This Generation Z. During the 2010s, Generation Z witnessed a dynamic transformation in both hairstyles and fashion trends, showcasing a broad spectrum of styles that were generally accepted, although certain ones, such as emo fashion, encountered their share of critique. This generation's distinct slang is a testament to the overwhelming influence of technology, serving as a vivid illustration of how digital modes of communication are intricately woven into the fabric of everyday language. The realm of pop culture and consumer habits during this period was deeply impacted by the internet and social media, with technological advancements such as smartphones playing a pivotal role. These developments heralded significant changes in trends, consumer behaviors, and the ways in which social interactions are conducted, highlighting Generation Z's remarkable adaptability and their seamless integration of technology into their lifestyle and cultural expressions. This era is characterized by an unprecedented merging of digital and physical realms, altering not just how this generation interacts, but also how they perceive and navigate the world. The result is a uniquely tech-savvy generation that values both innovation and inclusivity, shaping their identities in a world where digital connectivity is ubiquitous. Generation Alpha. In the 2020s, Generation Alpha is steadily coming to the forefront as a significant demographic group deeply impacted by the technological landscape that defines their fashion choices, hairstyles, and even the way they communicate. This influence is largely attributed to the omnipresent role of social media, which not only shapes their personal interactions but also molds their cultural preferences and expressions. Unlike previous generations, Generation Alpha is poised to integrate technology into their lives, not merely as a utility, but as a fundamental component of their identity and cultural engagement. This integration is evident in the rise of new content creators who utilize digital platforms not just for sharing content, but for setting new cultural benchmarks and trends. This generation's unique relationship with technology is traced back to the profound technological advancements made from the early 2000s to 2010. This period, marked by rapid innovation and the digital boom, is now looked back upon with a sense of nostalgia. The advancements during these years laid the groundwork for the digital age, influencing not just how technology is perceived, but how it's woven into the fabric of daily life and society at large. This reflection on the past highlights a pivotal era that significantly influenced cultural trends, underpinning the way Generation Alpha perceives and interacts with the world around them. Through this lens, it's clear that the impact of the digital boom era continues to resonate, shaping societal norms and expectations and paving the way for Generation Alpha to emerge as a distinctly tech-savvy and culturally influential cohort.